So when it comes to planning your week in terms of your training sort of split, a lot of the time we're working on recovery curves and the muscle protein synthesis curves. This allows us to obviously not overtrain, not undertrain, and obviously each area of the body and each muscle is considered to have different recovery curves and muscle protein synthesis curves off the basis of this. And one of the ideas that's been put forward is that it's down to the size of the muscles. So obviously the more muscle that you work, the more healing, more recovery, more repair work that's needed, which makes logical sense. The problem is that do we know which muscles are bigger than others in the body? So someone would say, your calves are small, so let's train them more frequently. But what does the research show us with regards to throughout the body? What are the biggest muscles versus the smaller muscles in the body? And then this might give us some idea about how often we should actually train them, if that even is correct as well. Of course, that's another estimation of things. So the first thing, which comes as no surprise, and this one is not exactly an unusual one to think of, is the biggest muscle or muscle group in the body are the quads. So the quadriceps, by far and away the biggest in the entire body. So this means that if we're going on the basis of recovery, training the quads and muscles that involve a lot of quad dominant work mean that you shouldn't train the quads necessarily all that often if you're working on the premise of the bigger the muscle, the more recovery time, the less often per week you would train. And this is borne out in a lot of people's training programs and so on anyway. Now, this is where the surprise comes. Not the first one, but the second one. Equal second biggest muscles in the body. The glute max, the gluteus maximus, which is your buttock muscle, which obviously is quite a well-known big muscle. And obviously that often works alongside with the quads in a lot of exercises, so that kind of works quite well. But here's the curveball. Equal second biggest muscle in the body, the calves. So your gastroc complex. So in this sense, maybe people are overtraining the calves maybe. Now there are some various caveats to this, and one is muscle fiber type. So soleus is very slow twitch dominated, which basically means it can do more work. We're on our feet a lot, and therefore the calves are working a lot. However, you could still say this to, say, the glutes or the quads is the lower limb. We use them all the time, so they're designed to be worked all the time. But there's a difference between maxing them out and their size and their recovery curves, and obviously how much you use them. So it's an interesting one. But calves, possibly based on this idea, they might be overtrained. So the next one is hamstrings. So obviously this would be the fourth biggest muscle in the body, or muscle group. So your hamstrings therefore are still pretty big, but nowhere near as big as the quads, of course. And obviously people often balance their hamstring and quad work out quite a lot of the time. But this shows that you could probably get away with more hamstring work than quads work. So it's another one which is interesting. Now, another thing people would say, to put a caveat to this one, is it depends on the type of hamstring work. Obviously you can work the hamstrings better from both joints, hip and knee, than you can with the quads, although the quads does have the rectus femoris, which is a hip flexor, but people don't tend to, in the gym, tend to train the hip flexors all that much. It tends to be more knee extension related work. Whereas hamstrings, you could do Romanian deadlifts, you could do curls. There's obviously both ends of the spectrum get trained, so there's probably already more workload going there anyway. So the next one, this is a surprise too. In the upper body, the biggest upper body muscle is not your lats, it's your delts. So your deltoids are the biggest upper body muscle. So again, when you think about planning your training out, people go, ooh, lats and pecs, they're big, they need more recovery time. But shoulders, we could train shoulders loads because the delts are small. But this actually shows the delts are the biggest upper body muscle, and therefore you need to work this out into your plan if this is the model of thinking you're going down the route of. So on this basis, it shows you that maybe the idea is right. Maybe we do need to work on our training split based on muscle size, but where people have made vast assumptions is the size of the muscles through the body based on how they appear on the surface of the skin. The reality is there's a lot of depth in there as well. So your lats, for example, your lats look big because they cover such a big area, but they're really thin. They aren't thick. And that means that they are actually, in terms of actual cross-sectional area, they are not the biggest in the upper body. Whereas the deltoids are actually, although they don't seem to, on the surface of the skin, cover so much area, they are a lot thicker, and therefore that's why they take up more volume in the body. So this is interesting. This is all researched information. So so it just puts a little bit of changeability into maybe how you plan your workouts. Again, we were saying that there is already that assumption that this is right anyway based on size, but if it is correct, then yeah, you might want to balance your workouts a bit differently throughout the week. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you next time.